Good morning, everybody. All right, let's do this thing. Oh, man. It's been a couple weeks. It's crazy. I need to get on top of it. Get on top of this. Make this happen. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to GameDevHQ's live pro stream. My name is Al, and today I am going to show you a quick little trick. And it was kind of something I fell upon on accident that can help you guys build your rooms a little bit quicker, build your environments a little bit better, and help you possibly achieve that GI look you want without ridiculous bake times. So what do I mean by ridiculous bake times? Well, let's get started real quick. Okay, so on my screen, I have an environment. And inside this environment, this scene is being built in HDRP, the high definition rendering pipeline. And there is no static anything right here. There's no baked in anything. This is all real-time lights. I can grab my lights and move them around my scene. You can see how those are affecting everything. I have a couple lights all around the room. And right now, it looks decent, but it doesn't look GI-ish. It doesn't look Global Illumination wise. And I could say that because, you go to the areas like back here, there's no light bouncing off these walls or anything like that. It's very one light source driving another light source, etc., etc. Now, if you like this, and I'm seeing the comments, everyone says, hey, this looks great. And not all of these assets are on Filebase yet, but eventually they will make their way onto here. But yeah, like these are going to be assets that primarily will be on Filebase. Now, which technically means that you guys will be able to make your own rooms that look exactly like this. Now, I kind of recorded all these already on the learn.gamedevhq.com. I added a bonus section into it that kind of goes over everything I'm going to be talking about today, but it's going to be done in nice little 3-minute clips, so you don't have to sit through a whole thing. But I kind of wanted to show this to you guys because I thought this could really help everyone in building their levels. So we have this environment. We have a complete lack of GI. And I noticed something the other day because I was watching that Unreal demonstration and everything happening in that Unreal 5 release was all real time. And it was just like, wow, how did they do that? Why are they pushing real time so hard? I wonder if Unity would be pushing real time as hard as well. So I took some time to sit down and I looked at the the light map settings, and I started actually comparing it to the post-production pipeline of the high definition rendering pipeline, and I kind of realized, I feel like Unity's been kind of setting this up for a while, and one of the big giveaways for it was the area lights. In lighting and area lights in HDRP, they don't offer a volumetric for the baked lighting. It's almost, they want you to go real time, which was like, this is interesting. I didn't even really ponder this, and I started looking at some of the items inside of this light mapping section, and I'm quickly realizing these are all kind of slowly getting converted and pushed over to the rendering pipeline, which is kind of interesting right there. So I said, what if, because I could tell you right now, I can click on this static, and what I can do with this is I could click and turn everything on to static. And I'm wondering if I may even break this scene and I have to restart, so I'm not going to do that. But what will probably happen is this will start going into bake mode. It will start auto-generating, and it'll start doing calculations, and I got a great GPU, but it'll still take 15 minutes, 10 minutes to bake this entire scene using static lights, right? And then if I want to make any type of sort of adjustment, I need to spend another 10 to 15 minutes to bake those lights. What if I can get the same effect or a similar enough effect? And I take that back. I won't get the same effect. But what if I can get a similar enough effect that only takes maybe 10 seconds to bake and limits me from having to constantly redo, and I may not get nearly as accurate result as I would baking every single item in my scene, but it's a close enough solution that allows me to work faster than I could prior. Would that be worth the sacrifice? And I was like, let me test it out in a couple different ways, and I think it may be a really good solution, not only for myself building levels, but for you guys as well, if you guys are interested in doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you real quick how this works. First thing we want to do is we want to generate our volume, and I'm going to create a global volume. And you could tell this is HDRP because if I go outside this room, it's this like solid gray area right here. Inside this volume, I want to create a new profile. So I'm just going to click new. And this is basically how the post-processing works. I click on this. This is my new global volume. And I'm just going to, refer to this as my sky. This is going to be my sky global volume. And I just want to stick a visual environment on here. And what the visual environment will allow me to do is choose between one of these three options right here: gradient, HDR sky, or physical sky. I'm just going to choose gradient sky. I'm going to make sure I click on type and I choose gradient sky. Now my sky is the gradient, and you can actually see it affecting things inside of our room. So you could see the blue affecting some of the other areas and highlighted. I don't necessarily want to do blue. I would prefer, maybe go to like a grayish tone. But I don't want my entire environment to be completely black, at least not right now. And I could adjust this later. You can go to your exposure mode, toy around with this and get some good lighting effects that you want to kind of like help fill in. But next thing I want to do is, now that I got this as my global volume, I want to look at how do I create that type of light bounce? So here's the idea. GI, Global Illumination. The idea behind it is it takes a light source, and when it bounces, it hits a ground. That creates a sample. You know how like when you do GI renders in 3D and you see all those little dots scattered everywhere? It's creating hundreds, if not thousands, of little samples all around the room. And it's determining, all right, this is the light intensity here, so I'm going to brighten this area up like this. And then sometimes you can actually add more bounces, and that bounce adds another sample, and it just grows. And that's how you get these like huge, massive renderings, right? And that's why when you do the click on the static button and you hit the static on every item in your scene, your whole scene goes to, I can't take this all in. What if we could only concentrate on the big things, the things that actually matter, the things that actually bounce light? And light does bounce, of course. It's what do they call it? It loses its intensity over time, but it does bounce light. I forgot the name of it. But okay, so if I were to grab some of these items and I created, let's say, a static, and I only concentrated on a couple big things that would realistically be the only things bouncing light in my room, then maybe these things would be the only ones carrying the GI in this room, and everything else can kind of go along its way. So let's take a look at this floor. I have this floor and this rug. I have a light up here. It's going to hit this floor and it's going to bounce up. Do I care if light bounces off a lamp? No. Do I care if a light bounces off a TV? Probably not. Do I care if any of this furniture bouncing light? No. It's just these big solid surfaces that matter. So I'm going to set the rug and the floor to static. Now you could see down here that literally took half a second to bake this to be static. But static lighting, that GI lighting, doesn't work on dynamic objects. It only works on other static objects. So if my wall or my ceiling was static, let's say right here, if I set this to static, then it would be bouncing light from the floor up top. That bounces light down below. So that's how that works right there, right? Two things that are static actually contribute to the GI baking. And you could see it right here in this little tab right over here. And let me move this over. It says contribute GI. That's really what the static is going to do. It clicks on all of these elements right here. So let me just kind of move that over real quick. But if you have everything contributing to GI, it just takes too freaking long. So what is the alternative here? How can we get this scene to generate lighting and bounce light without taking forever? This is where the light probes come into play, guys. This is where we get a little creative. Okay, so my rug and floor are set to static. These are the only things generating light. How do I get my dynamic objects, which would be everything in this item box that isn't set to static? And let's change this. Change this. Change this. And change this. Okay, so how do I get these to bounce light off of as well? Well, what we need to do is create a light probe. And we need to create a great light probe group. So if I go to lighting and I go to light probe, I could generate a light group. Now, did you just see that right there? I'm going to turn this off real quick. What the heck just happened here? So what is happening is you have these little probes right here. These are like your samples that I talked about with GI, where it's bouncing off the ground and bouncing up. This is your samples rate. And instead of having 500 samples in your room, now you have 8 in this cube. And these 8 are going to interact with everything in our environment to kind of fill it in and give it that GI sense. And really that's all it's doing is it's bouncing light off of different sources. Now, we need to make our probe a little more complex right now because it's pretty simplified. So I'm going to go to my shader, wireframe shader mode, and I'm just going to go place this over here. Let's go to a side view, and I'm going to get like a lower, and if I click my edit light probes tab right here, I can actually move these groups of light probes, a lower, a middle, and a kind of ceiling light probe. So you got different light intensities from the top of the ceiling all the way down to the floor. And then if we go from our top view, we can start grabbing these, duplicating these, and positioning them in sort of a grid all around our room. So we could just duplicate these over and over again and fill in our room with these light probes. And we could do the same thing with our hallway. Oops. Let's go to isometric view. I can duplicate this and just keep pushing these down this hallway so that our environment can now read dynamic lighting that's being bounced from GI. So I go back to my shaded mode and I go into my scene. And now I can go turn on and off my light probe, and I'm gonna switch off this. Actually, let me show this first. If I click on certain objects in the scene, you could see the color that is on here. So this is the reddish tint that is being bounced from this floor, right? Now check this out. If I were to select my ceiling and set this to static, and I select the same object, you see how I get the reddish tint that's bounced from the floor, but I'm also bouncing my ceiling. And why is my ceiling brighter? Because it's closer to the light source. So these two things are going to be really playing with each other a lot. So why is this fun? Why is this cool? Is because now I'm in a great position. I can determine, hey, I don't want my ceiling to bounce light. Let me just turn it off. I can now kind of negotiate with my light probe how intense I want my GI to be without spending a lot of time baking this out. Not only that, but I have even more control in the sense that now I could take these lights and I can mess around with their intensities, but also their indirect multipliers. Now, this is really interesting. Okay, so let's say in this instance right here, I have this particular light source. I want to increase my indirect multiplier. So let's say I put it to 5. You could see the difference right here. This is ugly. A lot of things in this room are ugly, but that's because this light has a bounce that's hitting our light probe, and that's really adjusting everything in this room. But it's bouncing off of this rug right here, this red rug. So if I were, in an instance, to go to another light source that isn't directly bouncing this red rug, what if I set this to like a 5 or 25? You know, now I can have a bounce that isn't off of this red, which is really how you can truly manipulate lights in this scene. And then you could start adding more dynamic lights into this room. Let's see. Let me just answer some of these questions real quick. Can you tell me how to control throttle or force with slider in Unity? No. What about the realistic aspects of as a picture on the wall? Do they have glass covering it, or are they as oil painting without glass? You want to see the painting? Let's see. I think this is just a photo. So the picture is 2 objects. One is a plane, and one is the frame, I believe. It came to life. Lost track of time. How is it possible to have subtitle that's really accurate for this stream? Google, babe. That I can't go any further than that. I do not handle that area. Okay, so now this area over here is a fine example of an area that is not being affected by let's see, the floor is set to not static. Okay, so if I turn this on to static, you know, now we're going to start, we could start playing with this room as well. Let's see, that wasn't very much, so I'm going to take this floor and move it out. Where is that one? Let's go with our ceiling and turn this on to static. And you could see how now this room is starting to light up. This back room is starting to play with some GI values. And you know, of course you can fine tune it and stuff like that. But that would be the idea, is instead of setting everything to static, you set only the big items next to the light sources that you know are going to generate that GI. But that doesn't solve this issue, does it? I mean, there's a whole area of light map settings in here. Environmental samples, bounces, you know, this is all the GI stuff. But then we get to like things like ambient occlusion, indirect intensity, stuff like that. How do we solve this? Well, we solve this through our post-processing stack now. So we already have our, and I'll call this my sky. We already have our volume for our sky. Let's go ahead and add our volume for our post. And inside this global volume, which I'm going to quickly create, this is our post global volume. In here, this is where I could start adding all those other things that have been primarily dedicated to just doing baking to accomplish it. So, such as ambient occlusion. We know ambient occlusion exists in post-processing. So I can go to my ambient occlusion, I could turn this all to on, and you could see quickly how I could adjust the intensities to achieve an ambient occlusions, which is, you know, that dark corner around all the darkness around all the room. Very neat, very easy to do, and it's being done live. Then I can go in and start adjusting other things. One of the other things I think would be really good is enable fog. You know, make it a volumetric effect. Then adjust your antistrophy and adjust your fog attenuation, and you know, you can get some beautiful effect inside your room with a very simple click of the button. And you know, we haven't even gotten into any type of color grading or anything else like that. You can go ahead and grab some shadows, and you can make sure that you adjust your shadows to make sure they're perfect. You can make sure that you adjust any of the other things that are really important, such as bloom. I mean, bloom would be kind of nice in this environment. You know, you softens everything up a little bit. Let's see. Make sure these light sources right here in our emission channel, you know, they can get a little brighter if you want, or a little darker if you want. I think they look pretty good as they are. This one is a little dim, so you may want to go to the emissive map, and let's see, is that emissive map even working? No, I always have issues with these Autodesk interactive ones. They don't tend to work very well. That's why I never really bring them into my scene like that. Anyway, we can adjust these things and monkey around with it and get an environment that looks... yes, Razdan, this is all working on HDRP. But... you know, we can get a really nice looking environment. And if I pull this out, you know, and I think this would be the good test, is you take these and you pull this out. This is with it without the post elements, and this is with it on. And you could see that just by adding the light probe groups and just a couple surfaces, you see this wall becomes visible now. This back room is completely dead. It's gone. These elements over here, like these television sets and stuff like that, dead, gone. You know, now you turn this on, and it all just starts coming to life. The back room comes to life. We see the corners of the room. We see all this detail, this beautiful detail in our scene that we couldn't get normally if we weren't using this system. And the best part about it is, you know, now we could do spotlights in our scene, and they're beautiful, and they're real time, and they're going to illuminate and look really good. And also, if I go to my lighting tab and I turn off auto generate, so I've already generated this, right? Now I can create a really cool light system. Click, turn off my lights in my scene. I don't have to deal with the baking. Click, turn that on. I can go to this light. Click, turn it off, click, turn it on. Little things like that now come into play. And now this entire scene is dynamic, which is fantastic. Now, you take this a step further. What about optimization? What about making this game run well in real time? Well, you know, Unity has added in certain things that make the old environmental stuff where, oops, my dog's barking, kids are screaming, you know, a constant stream of this stuff. But in the items area, I'm going to select this right here, and they created the occlusion culling. Back in the past, it could only do static objects, right? But now we have a little tab here that kind of changes things. You have the occlusion color, like it used to be, you hit static and this contributed to everything. Now you can selectively choose which one you want. So in this sense, I could choose, yes, I want everything in here to take the values of the occlusion culling. Okay, So now that I've done that, let me put my screen back to where it was. Now this has the values of occlusion culling. I can go to my camera. And let's say my camera is right here. I'm just going to hit Command F. So I center my camera right where I want it to. I can go to Occlusion, Bake, and just hit Bake. Okay. And I can go to Visualize. And let's set my game mode over here. And I'll show you how now, even with dynamic cameras, you're still going to get that occlusion culling. And on the left side, it's obvious. But if you look on the right side, do you notice any lighting change? Absolutely none. It all looks seamless and good and beautiful. And then if I go ahead and press play, we could take a look at these stats. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. Stat-wise, I can go to my camera, and you can kind of see it. Now, this is really high because, you know, I have a lot of batches, but I don't have a whole lot of batches being saved. So, go to Items. And in here, I also have the batching static. So, we'll just go ahead and set that. And then I can go back to this perspective, hit play. Where is this camera? And let's see, am I visualizing my... Oh, let me go back to my occlusion culling, baking, clear, bake. And then press play. And you could see the ones that are saved by batching. But yeah, I mean, so this is a cool little technique that could help you build out your game levels, I don't know, I would say fairly quickly, without a tremendous loss of performance. I mean, you're going to lose some performance, but if you're going to go HDRP, you know you're not doing this for iOS. You know you're not doing this for the Switch. You're going for either heavy console or you're going for something quite spectacular from there. So if that's the case, I would say, you know, go crazy with this, build something amazing, build something beautiful, and really take advantage of the GPU power right here, especially if you got these video cards. So this was a quick example of what you could do with, let's say, an interior environment, right? Now, this kind of applies the same to an exterior environment. So I'm going to switch on over to sort of an exterior. Let me just fix this one wall right here because this is going to drive me nuts. Where are you? No, I don't want that. I want you to show me in here. Materials, plaster. Go here. Thank you. Now that's better. Okay. So here is an environment. It's kind of this decrepit city environment. If you are wondering how we got all these assets and stuff like that in here, it's all in our Filebase system. Oh, yes, please. I'll update. I didn't expect an update today. Someone know how to make a tail script? That kind of boils into the. You could make it really quickly with the animation system. So if you guys wanted to know how to build these levels, this is where we build them. We build them through Filebase. And if you guys go on, I recently uploaded and added a ton of brand new buildings and environments. And it's awesome. Not only that, but we've gone back and updated a lot of the older buildings. So these are like the older high rises. And before they were very non-modular. They looked kind of like Flight Simulator-ish, so we've updated those as well. But these were like a simple drag and click. So, I click the locate button, which is high rise 45 right here, grab it, drop it into my scene. And this is what they look like. You can get up close and you see the brick detail. You see the little, you got these little stores and shopkeepes and stuff like that in here. Yeah, they're just really well done, really good looking. Something to get really excited about. Anyway, why did I pull this up? All right, let's take that same concept. I'm going to take this. Where is this? This is my volume. I got my shadows right here. I got my sky volume right here. I have my static objects. Where are my static objects? I'm going to turn off my light probe group. And I'm going to turn off my environmental statics. Oh, what did I have for static? I had roads. Roads right here. 1, 2. Okay. I could take these and turn these off. Only this object. Okay. So this is the environment without any type of light probe treatment, GI treatment. And here's the problem is that, okay, I got this bright light source being my sun, and I go into my shadows, and here's what I get. Now, what is happening in these shadows is it's reacting properly. It's keeping the metallic on, it's keeping the roughness on, it's keeping the normals on, but when it hits the color channels, it's setting those to black because you can't see the color in a black shadow. And that's why you walk into this area and it looks like it's glitched out. It looks like something broke. And that's because it needs light in here, but it's being illuminated by post. It's being illuminated. It's getting like self-help from post. It's getting self-help from all these other things. So how do we make this work? Of course, we do the same kind of concept we just spoke about. We set the big objects here to what we want to bake. So I could select, the roads, because the roads are the things that are actually going to be bouncing light. Nothing else is. Well, this building could be bouncing light too, but half of it's in shadow. So I'm going to use the roads as an indicator for how bright my light source should be. And then I'm going to go to my static button. I'm going to set these to static, but only this main object. So, bake time right now, it says 5 minutes. It's actually about maybe 15 seconds. And here, I'll move this up so you guys can see it. So it says 1 minute and 44 seconds. This is a very fast bake because I'm only really baking 9 objects in my scene. I'm not baking my entire scene. In fact, I've done it before. And what happens is you set it to bake and it crashes and it turns off and it goes to CPU. It's like, I can't handle this. I can't do this. So we give it a small grouping of things to bake. And then I can go over to my, my light probe group. And my light probe group, if I turn it on, let it finish baking. All right, so that finished baking, and my streets are static. Still, nothing has changed. I turn on my light probe group, and now my color has returned. And what does my light proof group look like? It's pretty fun. If I go here and I turn on, oh, I think I just need to turn on gizmos. This is what my light probe group looks like. It looks a lot more complex this way, but in reality, it's a grid that goes up so high. And if I go to the top view, you could see it's this like T section right here. And so I used this light probe group to help generate lighting for my shadows. Generate lighting for the areas that can't receive direct sunlight. And all it's doing is it's taking light from these other sources, and it's bouncing it along. Like you could see, and I hate this thing where it's just like pure white. I wish they would somehow adjust the light probe to be a little more representative of how much light is coming in. But this way, now I can actually see what my brick color looks like. Before, if you do recall, it without the light probe group, it turns into default metallic. But now my brick color, my window texture, my detail is starting to come in. And if you want, you can then go to your light source, which is this, and you can adjust your multiplier. You know, how strong do you want that light to bounce indirectly? Oh, I don't know. You know, if I wanted it to be 1, you could see how much darker it gets. But if I wanted it to be 25, well, you know, now my shadows are starting to become just as my shadowed areas are getting closer to my daylight areas. So it totally changes the complexion, you know, of your entire environment. So you get to have to play around with it a little bit. But this will help you get to a point where, okay, now I can do this where I'm only baking a couple objects in my scene, and then I can move quickly. I can build quickly. I can create a beautiful level quickly, and just, you know, let it all sit on the GPU. And of course, we're just talking about HDRP, of course. Remember, we're talking about heavy GPUs, heavy processors, heavy computers. We know we got the resources to go crazy with this, so let's go crazy with it. Let's have some fun with this. So that was kind of in a gist what this stream was going to be. It wasn't going to be anything very complex. It was just a little trick that I saw that I said, oh, you know what? I'm sure these guys would love to see this and know how to make this work better, because it definitely helped me a lot too. I'm going to go through the notes real quick. Mike mentioned that it's got directional light coming in from outside through a window, but he's trying to get the indoor lights to look good. This stream should help. Yeah, it's and we've definitely come into a situation where it is hard to mix outdoor lighting with indoor lighting. We have a indoor segment right here where you can go inside, and you know, you can mix the two. We are finding that there is a slight bug where when you are mixing two different post-processing profiles, there's like a clipping right here. But that is something to look into. Let's see. Would you be able to set the windows to be more reflective? Oh, these windows right here. That would probably have to do less. Let's see. These windows. So they have a metallicness. Let's see, where is this? I want to make sure I select the base. I'm wondering if that has less to do with being more reflective and more to do with having a reflection probe. So, you know, you got a reflection probe right here. Let me make sure it's in the right spot. Real time. And then let's see if we can get this. And I'll throw in a fake object just to be a kind of a test dummy. So go to here, go to material, and we want this to be highly metallic and very, very smooth. And I'll drop this on my sphere. And where did my sphere go? It's right here. All right, here you go. Okay, so if I go to my reflection probe, if I move my reflection probe out of here, okay, so that's not even affecting it. Let's see if I did not set up real-time enabled. Where is this? Okay. All right, sphere. Are you being affected by the reflection probe? Let's see, what are you seeing, sphere? That is interesting. It should be bouncing a lot more than just that. I'm wondering what the deal is. Let's see. I should probably go more horizontal. Oh, I should probably put the reflection probe where it's supposed to be. Let me see if I got this high enough. So you could kind of start to see it, but it's not very good. So let's see. And you could see the reflection probe affecting the entire area. I'm curious. Because I don't think it will benefit anybody to have a massive amount of reflections in this area. Because you're dealing with a big city environment. Let's adjust the blend distance to be smaller. And do that. Adjust the Z, the Z. And then if I select my, let's see, I think I can adjust my smoothness. Oh, that affects everything up here, but it's not really adjusting this. I don't know. I want to play around with that more. Let's see, I think there is a tab on here. You can adjust the reflection multiplier here, but it's not really adjusting what you see. There is some reflection going on. I can't completely identify what it's reflecting, but it is reflecting. Oh, I think, is that the car that it's reflecting right here? But yeah, like I wouldn't put a whole, because then you're going to start affecting other things over here, which can get ugly. But yeah, I mean, there's still room to play around with here. I haven't even messed around with this reflection probe enough yet, but oh, and here it is. Now this reflection probe is acting properly, where we could see the environment at which we're reflecting. So, you know, let's say we went from this ground level. Let's test this. Let's just have some fun here. If we were to go wider. So that's what it would kind of look like. From there, this is what you would see as you're walking by. Kind of scenario. And this is with it off. So you can see the differences between the two. But no, that's a great question, Tom. I want to see what the the base metallic map would look like. This has converted it, but I'm curious what the base metallic map would have looked like. I don't think you can go any higher than 1. But yeah, so as far as like the course or the stream goes, as far as like GI, what are we doing? That's kind of really where I wanted to get to is to be able to show you guys how you can use these light probes to get more of a more realistic. Well, not even more realistic, but a faster way to compute GI without hitting the bake button and sitting there for hours and hours and hours on end. Let's see. Any other questions? Because I don't think there's much else to go over. If you guys want to, you can go back and rewatch this. I also added inside of the ultimate guide to making beautiful game levels. I added a bonus section, and it covers volumetric lights and some tricks that I found to make volumetric lighting look better. Some things that I discover, I'm like, oh wow, this is a great little tip right here, especially toward smoothing out that light and to prevent the blurring of the light. Also, again, we have the new update to Filebase right now. And we also have a ton of new assets. I know, Peggy, I owe you females. I'm still working on that. Just so you know, this level right here is going to be part of the final course in our game development series. So, this environment right here is going to be looking, this is what you're going to learn to build a game in. So, and this was all built completely using Filebase assets. There was nothing else that was involved. This is completely part of our pro membership. So, and hopefully we'll have a new update on our website very soon. So it's pretty fantastic. Um, let's see. Would you be able to do it through mats on that, and to cover the transition between post productions? Yes, so we do show how to do a transition between the two different post production, or the now they call it global volumes. So the two different volumes that you can move between. In fact, right now, this is one volume over here that's independent of the other. It's pretty simple. I mean, all you really need to do to make a somewhat smooth transition between the two is in the interior room volume. Just got to adjust your blend distance, but this will keep it so that this stays out from the other one. That moment of blindness. Yeah, you're right, Tom. I mean, I think there's a great idea right there that's actually a pretty clever one. What Tom is saying, which is a really smart idea, is you create a third room volume. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you create a new box volume right here, right? And this box volume would be about this big. It would cover your character, and it would cover the door, and it would sit exactly inside the door. Oops. Let's see. Let me bring this up to street level. It would sit right here on the door, like that. And this particular volume, let's say, would have a blend distance of 0.5. And in it would have a new profile, and in here you would ramp up the exposure, and this exposure would be like high. So as you walk into it, let me turn off my gizmos. So as you walk in, is it my light adjusting? Let's see. Where's this volume go? Oh, here it is. Let's see. Maybe I need to reverse it. Let's see. There we go. We want it bright. And this would be... So let's see. 0.1. Something kind of like that. You got it's gonna need some fiddling, but that would be the idea. Is 0.3. You would use this as a way to kind of bust between the two. Let me see. Maybe a limiting. There we go. There we go. So you would do that, and then you'd bust out, and you adjust your blend distance to kind of cover that area. That's a pretty neat idea, actually. That's a really cool trick, but something that can be done. I like that, Tom. That's really smart. Which GPU am I using? I'm using a 2070 GTX. All right, guys. I think that's pretty much it. I hope you guys walked away with something interesting here that you could play with, that will help you build your level a little further. Again, I'm going to probably start up next week building another level. Before I do, though, let me do this first, because I know, Tom, you requested this, and I never got around to it. What's the best way to do this? Do I have anything that is of... I don't... Let's just create a new... Because I know, Tom, you mentioned you wanted to see how the animation system worked, and I can do that real fast. So I'm going to create an animation system test. And I'll show this to you real quick, because you'll like this. It's like a bonus for sticking around, I guess. So let's knock this out real quick. Oh boy, these always take forever. Okay, in here, I am going to, let's see. Does this adding light probes work with PBR? Yeah, a lot of these assets in this room are actually direct imports from Maya. I believe this, a lot of these assets are directly brought in. So it should. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and grab in my downloads a Filebase package. Import. All right. I'm sure it's going to ask to update. Yes, please. I'll close this out. File base. Thank you. Okay. And I'm just going to bring in a character real quick. So, humans. Let's go characters, humans. Who am I gonna pick on today? Let's pick on man. Let's pick on man 22. All right. So Unity is coming out with a new animation character system that uses like IK chains and stuff, and it's pretty impressive. But it's still not show ready yet. So in here, I'm gonna go to man. I'm going to drop my man in here. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go to window, rendering. Where's rendering? Rendering. Lighting. And I'm going to turn on auto generate. And now I see my man. And I'm just going to take my directional light and flip it the other way so I can see him a little bit better. Okay. So what... Oh, we need to fix something real quick. Man, materials, hair... why do you look like crap? Let me see. Hair. Oh, that's why. Use the Janus. Oh, I don't want the whole thing to use it. Oh, that's right. I got to select the hair. Drop that in. Eyelash. Drop that in. Now you look a lot better. Now you don't look ridiculous. Okay, so Unity's coming out with this new package, package manager. You can't find it in here. You actually have to go look in preview packages. Show preview packages. And it is the animation rigging system. So you just go ahead and install that in. And as soon as that's done, it is installing. Okay, so a couple things. This only works at your root level, and it only works on the root level that has an animation. So you cannot put your character inside of as a child to anything. It has to be on the root. So let's say we have this character right here, and we want to add in the ability to manually control his rig. So to do this, let's go ahead and put an animation on him. I have been working on a lot of zombie stuff lately, so I have a bunch of those. I also have some idols here, so I'm going to drop in an idol real quick. And this idle is going to be that, and that's incredibly boring. Let me see something. Let's do a little more interesting idle position. Here we go. This may be a slightly more interesting zombie position. Yeah, zombie generic. Okay, you set this to humanoid, hit apply. Boom. And then in here, I take this, I duplicate my animation, and I'll call this idle. I know I'm all set to go because, you know, now my character is set to humanoid. I usually set these so that my character doesn't slowly rotate in some weird way. And I go to my Unity and I drop my idle onto him. It creates an animation and avatar. And in here, I set this to loop. So when I press play, which I'm going to right now, it didn't work. All right, let's see, man. Oh, there you are. Idle, speed, why aren't you working? That's interesting. Avatar. The heck? He's rigged, right? He's got a skin mesh. He's got everything in here. He's got a bone system. He better be rigged. Let's see. Oh, that's why. I'm dummy. Yeah. You got to make sure that your man is set to humanoid as well. I'm like, where's his avatar? I don't make sense. Okay, you drop your man in here. I got to adjust the hair real quick. Eyelash and hair. Drop that in there. Now you're all beautiful again. And here's where I drop my idol. Boom. Okay, and I'll delete this old one because I don't want to get confused. And I press play, and he should be doing his idle move, right? Okay, so that works. We know that works. Okay. From here, let's see. One quick question on the character base. Are the clothing items interchangeable? No, they are not. They are not. They are built in. Like this, I think this body is, if you turn off skin mesh renderer. Whew, saved myself some trouble there. But let's see. Let's see. Yeah, and then so we got this here. Okay, let's talk about this IK rig system. That's what we're trying to get to. Okay, here's how my memory works. In here, now that you got your IK rig here, you need to set a couple things. You need to set your rig builder, and you need to set the joints that your rigs will pull from. Okay. And there are a lot of really fantastic samples in here from this system. If you go to the animation rigging, where is this? Is it in tests? No. I know there's like a whole scenes area inside of animation rigging that shows off a whole bunch of awesome stuff. And I don't know where the heck it is. Oh, no. Here's what you got to do. You got to go to Package Manager, and inside here, you can import your constraint samples. So if you import that, they have all the projects. So someone mentioned, like, how do I do a tail? This is how you do a tail. Inside of here, they have... did they put it in scenes? No, they put it in Unity. Here you go. And they pull up a whole bunch of different samples. And here are the scenes. And here's like a bone. Here's an aim system where you can actually have your head aim at a certain object. This is a blend between two object motions. I think what you want as far as that is a chain. And real quick, you could see how the chain works. If you press play, if you look at his tail, his whole tail is moving based on the IK chain. And if you go to your scene, you could see that he has the IK chain position right here, and he is animating it, and that's what's playing back is this tail. So it does all the chaining for you, but it's completely independent of the actual what you call it, animation that's built into everything else. And this is the two bone chain, which we're doing. So we got to do a rig builder and then a rig and then everything else. Okay. And just to give you a quick idea, this whole animation is actually being driven by, I believe, these right here. So someone went in and animated the movements of this to do this in real time, which is pretty cool. So how do we do that in ours? Let's see, the rig builder rig. Okay. I always get these confused and I'm like, why doesn't this work for me? I don't understand. So here's how it works. You go to you go back to your main scene. So go back to my sample scene. I go to my character and I know he's got that zombie animation right here. On here, I go to my man and I go to rig builder. and I create a rig builder. Now it needs to look for a rig. So inside of here, I go create a rig. So empty game object, and I attach a rig. Now, in rig builder, I say this is the rig right here. Okay, so now rig builder knows that's the rig. What does the rig need? The rig needs, what you call it? IKs, left hand, right hand, things like that, right? So right click on here, create empty object. And I'm going to do, let's say, left hand. And I'm just going to do left hand right now because you guys could probably figure out how to make a right hand work. And I'm going to reset his position real quick. I'm going to move it up and to the left. And I'm going to actually also drop a little real-time dot on him so I can always spot it. And let me adjust the size of my icon so it's a little easier to see. Okay, so with this being done, how do I make this arm, his left hand, now independent from the animation? I go to joint, what is it? IK, two bone. There you go. Two bone IK constraint. Perfect. In here, I have my body already boned. And I got my left shoulder, which is right here. And I got my left arm, left forearm. So left arm, left... Okay, so these are the ones I care about. Left arm, left forearm, left hand. Those are the three I care about. In here, I go to my root, which would be my left shoulder. And then I want my... my left arm. And then I want my left forearm, which is like my elbow. And then I go my left hand. Okay, and then it says the source objects, my target is my left hand. I drop that in here and I hit play. Now you see what's happened is the left hand is now aiming toward this IK. What's even cooler is you could adjust the weight. So, we talked about last time, how do I pick up an item with my character? How do I get his arm to animate and grab something? All right, here's how you do it. You create an animation and grab a bunch of stuff, and then from there, you end up turning on this weight on and off. And you can actually animate this weight, of course, too, to simulate the grabbing of something. And that way you could adjust, all right, I want him to grab something from low, from medium to high, or something like that. That's how you can use this new animation system. So when you don't want this system on, you turn it to off, and things go along the way you are. Poppy, shh. Things go the way they are. But when you do want the weight to go on, that's how you can use this animation system. And you can even blend between the two, so it's not like super challenging. But this is only one of the constraints that are available. There's a whole bunch of them available in the new animation system that they're working on. But this... this is how you could do like a simple IK, and you don't even have to do just one. Like, okay, so now I've done the left hand. All right, do I want to do the right hand? Do I want to do a knee? Do I want to do something else? Yeah, all you do is right click on this and do create empty game object, and you do a right hand. And in here, we just go ahead and add the component. This is the 2K IK bone script, right? So this is our right shoulder, right hand, right mix. So I take my right arm, right forearm, right hand, and then in my source objects, I drop in my right hand and I hit play. Okay, so now my left and right hand are being controlled. Now he's locked in a box and he can't get out. So this is the idea behind the new IK system. But this is only one element of the IK system that's being done. Now, what you'll notice here is you notice how like one elbow is all crazy and the other elbow is all normal. That has everything to do with hints, and you can actually add a hint, which is kind of like a pole in a 3D software, so that your elbows know which direction to go into. I've tried it before. I don't think it's really that good yet. I think they need to still work on that a little bit, but um, eh, yeah, it still needs some help. Um, Generally speaking, I've in the past I've had it to where you could stick a pole vector, let's say back here and back here, so this would be your right hand pole, and this would be your left hand pole, and in this left hand you would say, all right, well that's my hint right there, and the elbow should bend in that direction. But I in working in real time, it's kind of finicky, you know. You can kind of see it doing its thing, but it's not exactly 100% accurate. So hopefully, it's looked into, and they can figure out a way to kind of at least make it a little bit easier, or even maybe even draw out the pole. I think drawing out the pole would be a lot better. But you know, here we go. Now that's functioning. But you can see now that the elbow's leaning in the right direction. Uh okay. I know that was really really short, Tom. I know that because I believe it was you, Tom, that wanted or was it you, John, that wanted to see this character thing real quick? But this is like the new animator system, and this is again only one small part of the animator system. It's actually quite exciting to see what they're developing in the scenes area. Some of the things that really were cool. I loved the IK chain because again, tails are fantastic to build. And then twists, overrides, I mean, these other ones are kind of neat, but I really liked the bone. I like the aim thing, because that saves quite a bit of time. You could see the treatment here. Now he's actually aiming at what he wants, but the character has an animation built onto him. And so that's huge. It's like, okay, now this is that Silent Hill head turn kind of thing, which is really really quite amazing. And then you can just create a point that as the player walks in at a distance lowers. Okay, now I need to look at my target, and it's really neat. It's really cool. Okay, let's see. I think I am done here. Um, and okay, it was John. Okay. Let's see. Ricardo had a question about the pre-recordings. Okay, Ricardo, we uh, real simple. It's that particular. Uh, we we answer questions in live chat, but answering it all the time, doing the same recording over and over again, is just impossible. So it's an introduction to game development, and we answer everyone's questions live when they type it into the chat. But are we going to do the same recording 10,000 times? No, we're not. Um, so yeah, it is in a sense. We are live in that we do respond and we do try to help people out, but that introductory one, that's a lot of work. Um, let's see, anything else, guys? Otherwise, I think I'm going to call it a day. But thank you for tuning in. It was fun. I'm going to try to get back to level design next week. There's another level I need to build. And so if you guys want to hang out, it's going to be like an all-day thing for me. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this was a valuable thing, and hoping to kind of opened eyes to a couple new things. I am Al, and I'm peacing out, and I'm going to get back to work. But thank you guys for tuning on in. And you guys take care.